Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next comment or question comes from Steve Bailey. And this is in response to the Yamaha SY99 project Part 1 assessment. And I've got to be brutally honest to say I've done nothing with the SY99. It's actually in a box down in storage at the moment, partly because I was trying to find a part, which I've now acquired. I have acquired the part, but I've just got to get the synthesizer back here to fix it, and then I can use it. But Steve writes, what does it mean when it says disc not ready? And you've got to remember that the SY99 and the SY77 and all the synths of this era that use disk drives weren't particularly good at telling you what was wrong. They're very good at not working, but they weren't particularly good at telling you why. Now, normally on the SY99, the statement disk not ready actually means the SY99 can't detect a disk in the disk drive. And that can be caused by a number of things. But top of the list, if you are going through this troubleshooting process, are damaged or incorrectly formatted disks or a failing drive. Now, there is a way to check what may be going on here. The easiest way to do that is put a disk that you don't mind screwing up in the disk drive. When I mean screwing up, you don't mind the disk actually becoming unusable in the future, and you don't mind losing the data on the disk. Okay, so that's what I mean by you don't mind screwing up. And then format it in the synthesizer. So go into the disk menu, find the format command and format the drive. If the format completes, then the SY99 can read the disk and it's not a failing disk drive. So the next way to test whether it's working correctly is to then write something from the SY99, anything, doesn't matter what it is, write it to the disk, remove the disk, take it out, physically take it out of the drive, put it back into the drive and see if the synth can read it. If the synth can read the disk once you've gone through that whole process, it is probably something to do with the disk that it says disk cannot, what does it say, disk not ready. It's probably something to do with the disk that was in the drive when you got that error message. And a pound to the penny, you'll probably find the disk is probably corrupted. Which is why I always advocate make a backup and never use the original. I have a box of originals and I have a box of backups, and I always use the backup. And before discs get used by me, I always make the backup and I work on the backup, never the original, for this exact reason. It also means if you've got a backup and you've got an image of the disc, then if the backup were to fail, you can just rewrite the image. And that is the system that I have perfected over the last couple of years for every one of the synthesizers that I own, to ensure that if I've purchased a disc library or purchased discs with sounds on them, I'm not going to lose them. Anyway, that's kind of me being a pedantic what's it, but I always say never use the original, make a backup, because when you get something like this go on and it turns out to be a corrupt disc, you don't weep into your cornflakes. Next comment or question comes from 5pin Din. In response to thoughts on Native Instruments machine, Roland TR8 and TB3 direct connection. Video I did in June 2023. And 5pin Din writes, as a thought on the machine question, I think I'm well positioned to comment here as I may be considered a musical magpie. Over the years I've bought and still own several workstations. I'm a heavy DAW user, Ableton, Pro Tools and Reason. I bought Machine Mark III as the workflow seemed easy on the various YouTube videos I watched. You might ask why I call myself a musical magpie. I have too many tools and as a consequence mastered none. Bottom line is, whatever works for you, learn how to use it, get the best out of it before moving on to the next shiny musical object. But to be fair to me, it's a known condition called gas. And apparently I might have a bit of gear acquisition syndrome lurking somewhere in my DNA. I'm definitely a subscriber to gas. So like you, I think I have gas too. Although one of the housemates might say it's the wrong sort of gas. And I do agree, many people move on to the next shiny, slinky platform before they've mastered the previous platform. Although like El Dorado, not all that glitters is gold. And I say that because I kind of go through a justification phase before buying a synth. Now, yes, I do have a lot of legacy tech in the arsenal, and that some of that is because I want it, some of that is because I use it all the time, and I do use some of this stuff all the time. But in terms of buying new, I always have to justify why I'm doing something. It's the reason why I haven't got a Phantom, because I dearly would love to own a Phantom. I can't justify a Phantom. I don't think it's sufficiently different from what I can do with my Kronos. And yes, I know everyone's going to scream at me about like Roland Cloud and engines and stuff like that. Yes, I know it has all that. But then I have a Jupiter X. And I got a lot of those engines on my Jupiter X. I've got a System 8. I've got a lot of those engines on my System 8. Do I need a Phantom with the same things again? Anyway, I think that I've made my point. The other point I would say here is, if you're watching this and you think that you have gas, that's gear acquisition syndrome, all I can say is you must have very understanding people around you. And you can read that in very many ways.